let's take a look back at the number line. And the thing I want you to notice on this number line is there are great big gaps between the whole numbers. And the thing is, those points on the number line, they're numbers too. What should we call them? Let's look at this point. It's somewhere between 1 and 2. What should we call it? Well, look here. If I split each of my units into 3 equal parts, I get these little line segments that are shorter than 1 unit each. And I call these short pieces. Because I split my unit into 3 equal parts, I call them the thirds. So this point, this first one that I've marked, this is called 1/3, 2/3, 3/3, right? 1 copy of a third, 2 copies of a third, 3 copies of a third, 4 copies of a third, 5 copies of a third, 6, 7, 8. I could keep going like this. Of course, if I stay at 0, that's no copies of a third. What do I call this point then? I call this point 5/3. Now, not every point on the number line between 1 and 2, between 0 and 1, between 2 and 3, not every point on the number line can be labeled with a fraction, but many of them can. All right, when we write this symbol, 5/3, as we said, this symbol represents this point on the number line. How have we written this? We've written this using 2 numerals with a fraction bar between them. The 5 is called the numerator, and the numerator tells us how many of these fractional pieces we have. Think the numerator enumerates. It tells us how many. The denominator, the 3 in this case, tells us how many pieces we've split each unit into. The denominator tells us what kind of fraction we're dealing with. Think the denominator names. Denominator like what denomination of currency is that, right? What kind? How many parts has each unit been split into? All right, what do we notice about these fractions? The first thing to notice is how to draw them on a number line. So let's suppose I asked you to plot 3/5 and 7/4 on the same number line. What would you do? Well, first you would draw a number line and mark the units. Right, before we can figure out what fractions are, we need to know what the whole units are. So here I'll mark again 0, 1, and 2. 3/5, the denominator is 5. That tells me I want to split each unit into 5 equal parts. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Notice to get 5 parts I had to make 4 cuts. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And my artwork is terrible, but these are all the same. Same over here. 1, 2, 3, 4 cuts to get 5 parts. 1, 2, 3, it doesn't go all the way up to 3, so I can't make all of the fifths. And so the fifths are 0/5, 1/5, 2/5, and 3/5. this point here is 3/5. To plot 7/4, I'll need to divide my number line into 4 equal parts. 1, 2, 3 cuts to make 4 parts. 1, 2, 3 cuts. And then 1, 2, and I can't go all the way to 3. So I'll have 0/4, 1/4, 2/4, 3/4, 4/4, 5/4, 6/4, 7/4. Here we go. This point is 7/4. Notice again, we needed to put in the units first and then split them up. I'm going to have you try one of these now, just plotting 2 fractions on the same number line. Plot 3/2 and 3/4 on the same number line. Pause the video and try this now. All right. Well, we'll draw a number line and start by marking the units. 0, 1, 2. Hopefully that's enough. To plot 3/2, we're going to have to divide each unit into 2 equal parts. And then we'll mark 0/2, 1/2, 2/2, 3/2. There we go. This point is 3/2. To mark 3/4, well, fourths, we want to divide each unit into 4 equal parts. And then we'll have 0/4, 1/4, 2/4, 3/4. Here it is. Here is 3/4 on our number line. Now there's something I want you to notice about how we say fractions. First we say the name of the numerator, and then we say the name of the denominator, but as what's called an ordinal number. So second, third, fourth, not 2, 3, 4. There are a couple of denominators with special names. Denominator 2 is always half or halves, never second. Denominator 4 can be read as quarter or as fourth, and you'll hear me do both. It's also important to be aware of denominators 1 and 0. We cannot have 0 as a denominator. Why? Well, each unit already has 1 part. There's no way that by cutting it up, I can get rid of that. Whenever I cut up a unit, I get more parts, not less. So I'm not allowed to have 0 in my denominator. It just doesn't work. What about 1? Denominator 1 just means, well, that's the whole unit. So 0 is 0 wholes. 1 is 1 whole. 2 is 2 wholes. 3 is 3 wholes. And that's how we understand denominator 1, and even how we read it. If we see numerator 2, denominator 1, we'll say 2 wholes.